right, join with me today is Philosopher and Reminix. We're going to talk about regrets and characters that we wish we did not take into DD4 and give some suggestions on what you should do. A lot of people are heading in. What's up, my guys?
Hey.
What's going on?
Okay, so we've all gone through DD4. I'm on my second run. I believe you guys are on your fourth runs. You guys are just doing it for fun at this point, right?
Yeah, totally doing it just to stream a little bit, to make some videos, to test out the new characters.
Okay, and
science. It's in the name of science.
Science, yeah. And just like last year, I think Rem and I, we made a video like this last year. It's like, boy, if we would have had access to this character, we would have done this, or I wish I had done this. So why don't we start with you, Rem? Who was your initial 5? Who did you go through global? Who did you go through so and so and so on? And then which characters did you absolutely regret and wish you would have done differently?
So my global is pretty straightforward. I used Mr. Sinister, and I have no regrets there. Although I'm not using him in the end game. Hawkeye, Black Widow. So Mr. Sinister, Black Widow, Captain America, and Ghost. So I'm going to tell you right now, as far as regrets, I regret Black Widow and Captain America. Now, they're great for my Wave 1 team, but that really didn't do me much good. So, and then Ghost for the global, she's great. I have no regrets there. I think she's a staple of my current tech team.
Okay.
For the Doom raids.
So you did Ghost, Mr. Sinister, Black Widow, and Hawkeye, and
no Hawkeye. I did Captain America.
Captain America. Okay, so Captain America and Black Widow. Okay, so let's just talk about Captain America. Captain America's bio, and there's a severe bio crunch for symbiotes. So that makes sense to me. Who would have you done differently?
So I wouldn't have taken Captain America. I wound up in a bio crunch. The only reason why I got it done relatively quickly was because I reserved my mutant for the legendary, and I was able to, when Jubilee came out, I was able to power her up and take her in. So the problem you're going to have is allocating resources. So, and then, now that a Doom raid's out, we have a lot more insight too.
Okay. And so who would have you taken who would have been your 4 second if you were to do it again?
Oh, geez, Zemo. The thing about Zemo was we didn't know how good he was going to be in that skill section. There just isn't a lot of skill characters. I thought that Hawkeye and Black Widow were going to carry you through, but they just happen to build it so that everybody's immune to blind, and so completely negating Hawkeye's usefulness.
Okay, and then for your 4th, so you would have kept Black Widow, and you would have done Zemo, is what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and where are you at, Philosopher? Who are your 4 for global?
My 4 for global were exactly the same as his, and I was entering very early. So the way I had looked at it at the time was I think I was the 8th person to enter. So very limited data set. And I knew Black Widow was cheap. She was only 36 skill uniques. And I really spent a lot of time debating between Sabretooth and Captain America just because I was in a race situation.
Right.
I ended up taking Captain America because I figured he's a better character, and I do regret both of those choices for sure.
Okay, so you both right now are very, very hyped on Mr. Sinister and Ghost, and then which I am also. So I just want to say all 3 of us right now in agreement that Mr. Sinister and Ghost and Global's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And Zemo.
And Zemo. We're also going to bring in Zemo, right?
I'll take a different view on that one. I think Zemo is just okay in DD4, but he's amazing outside of it.
There you go.
And so you want to have him geared outside of it. So that would be my thing. I think there's other choices too, by the way. Red Guardian and Emma and some others.
Okay, so who would have? Let's wrap up this part and then we'll go to that part. So who would have you took instead of Captain America and Black Widow? Who would have you preferred to take?
I think it would have probably, if I was going to do it now, I would probably take Red Guardian and Zemo because those are characters I brought to G15 anyway after being done with DD4.
Okay, and then I'll just kick out mine. I did Ghost, Mr. Sinister, Zemo, and Emma, and I hate to say this, no regrets. No regrets. No regrets. I'm happy with all 4 of them, and so let's talk about Red Guardian. Red Guardian instead of Zemo. That's interesting, right? Because Red Guardian is the real deal right now, right? Especially in the Doom raids, right? Because I guess let's get to the point. At the end of the day, what's the most you probably will get through DD4 one way or another. It seems like if you log in and you're going to make progress every day. So when you're all finished, you're left with characters behind. You want to have characters that you're going to use all the time. And what we're saying is that Captain America, Black Widow, not so useful. Zemo, very useful. Red Guardian, very useful. Emma, useful, right? That's what we're saying, right?
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I mean, I think that Captain America and Black Widow aren't even the characters you want big for your war defense. In other words, I would rather have Thor and Hulk big on that Wave 1 team. So I've really gotten very little out of them, outside of DD4. And Red Guardian, as you point out, just carries me in the skill raids. He also does very well. I've tested him in DD4. He does very well there. Zemo, as Remenek said, is a fantastic choice as well, just for his use in war and his use in the skill nodes as well.
Okay, what do you think, Rem?
Yeah, so I mean, the bottom line is you're gonna have to decide what you want to do. Do you want to go through quickly and then relieve the pressure of material, or do you want to get the characters that you're going to use the best and go through just kind of at your own pace while you acquire them? The problem with Red Guardian is I absolutely would recommend him for like a second run, but the problem you're always going to face with him is he is literally 90 skill, and so that's going to limit your options when you go in there. So the thing about it is like Zemo, even though maybe he's not as good, if everybody else died on your team and you had Sinister and Ghost, you probably could have beat all of DD4 the first 6 nodes.
Yes,
and that's something that's refreshing, but also should say that it didn't matter as much in those sections. The next sections, I think, are where really the rubber hits the road.
Yeah. So I want to reaffirm what you just said right there. Pretty much, the first 6 nodes is about Mr. Sinister and Ghost. I believe that if you're patient and you try hard, you can probably. It doesn't matter what the other characters are. I played it, and it seems like it's all about Ghost and Mr. Sinister. So let's go to the next area, which is definitely requires more planning, right? Let's talk about Mystic.
So Cosmic section is
Cosmic. Yeah,
don't worry, I do the same thing all the time. It's boomer brain.
Yeah.
It's literally the Cosmic section. I think is probably where we did a lot of testing with Philosopher recently.
Yeah. All right. So who did you take in? First of all, who did you take in, and then we're talking about ones you hated.
Go ahead, Philosopher.
Go.
Yeah. So I took in. Now this was back in December. So I ended up taking Minerva, Thanos, Proxima, and Longshot. And at the time, my thought process was I figured I would rely on Minerva's ult and then bring the cheapest meta team in terms of uniques because I was in a race situation. I brought Longshot. He had just been released. And I had extra mutant uniques because I had only brought Sinister as my only mutant in global. So I just kind of rolled the dice based on how his kit looked on paper. He did very well. But he was not like carrying me. I had low Stark Tech and I didn't have Shatterstar. So I definitely struggled a little bit with that team. I don't really have regrets with the team, just to be clear, because it did kind of get me through Cosmic, and I actually gained ground on people in terms of the race situation I was in at the time. And I like all those characters, but if I was doing it over again now, I would do as I did on the second run and bring Shatterstar as well and just blow through the nodes, because those two combined enabled me, like on the third run, I did like 2, 2, and 5, which is much better than what it took me the first time.
Okay, so you did a kind of a rogue strategy a little bit, Remenex. Tell me who you did in the Cosmic.
So I did Thanos, Mordo, I did Proxima, and Minerva.
Okay. And what are your thoughts about that?
Don't do Mordo.
Don't do Mordo. Okay, so if
not without Hela, and you would definitely pick it. So again, I was still trying to finish in the top 100. I was trying to do it for my birthday. I fell a little bit short of that, so I still was trying to pace myself. So I did make some sacrifices in order to expedite my journey through here. However, Mordo was someone I was using up in Mystic up until I got Silver Surfer. So in a Doom raid. So I have little regrets. I will say, if I had it to do over again, there's some definite characters I would do, and I don't know that I would I would prioritize Long Shot and Shatterstar if you're trying to get through it quickly, just because the amount of mutants that you're
Right.
you're going to wind up with a lot of mutant gear. So again, adopting one of those two philosophies, all right, philosophy. Well, you're gonna have to look at, like, specifically how many mutants can I bring up,
Right.
for the value that's gonna get me there.
Because a lot of people are looking at Mr. Sinister and Phoenix, and then who's going to be your third, right? And then who's going to be your fourth, right? And it gets pretty crowded when you've got other amazing choices like Jubilee and Emma in there also. Okay, so I did Proxima, Hela, Thanos, and Minerva, and I'm happy with what I chose. I'm the only thing that concerns me a little bit is Hela was hella expensive, and she was really expensive. My God, and to one shot the nodes is the double Hela Minerva revive, right? So you hope that you hope that Hela dies, leaving the Greg alive. You revive with Minerva, and then suddenly you have two Gregs, and they stay there, and that's great. But I really struggled towards the end of my run with Ebony Maw and getting the pieces. I mean, I was hung up forever, and Hela is a part of that problem, right? So the question is, we were talking about this yesterday. So I'm happy with my choice overall. I mean, I use the characters every day. No regrets on that. So we're going to open up a bag of worms right here. Silver Surfer over Hela. First time around.
So I did a video on this, and so people can go to my channel if they want to see footage of Silver Surfer on kind of a typical team. I mean, what I concluded is I think he does worse than Hela as a solo character at 3 red stars, which is where I had him at the time. 3 yellow, 3 red. But he's a fantastic character, clearly better than choices like Thanos or Thor or something. So the question is just, do you want him over Hela? I'm not sure. I did have him. I tested him last night at 4 reds with Shatterstar and Longshot, because some people wanted to see that, and I thought he was fantastic. I mean, he was definitely noticeably better. I think he's great. He's definitely a top choice, and I think really it's just a question of, do you want to have perfect runs through the nodes, which I think Hela and Minerva are a fantastic way to do that, but like you said, Hela expensive. But I think for the long run, Silver Surfer's a character you want geared.
Okay, and then I think I came to the same conclusion. What do you got, Rem?
Yeah, so I mean, the problem you're going to face is literally when you're done with City, will you have enough Mystic to build Maw? And so Surfer solves that problem, because realistically, I've always kind of said this. Maybe you should think about working backwards, and understanding the value you have. But the best part about this is we've literally solved the raid for you. The raids are solved. We find the best teams. Philosopher and I have a couple different versions of teams, but they're largely solved where you can complete a whole lane after you beat the, DD4. So the question is, is this going to be the final iteration of the Doom raid? We don't know, but I would say take Silver Surfer, especially if you're able to get him at 3 stars. Now, again, remember, if you're free to play, and you're just got the strike pass and you're going through the strike pass and you unlock him, I don't think you're going to prioritize that. You're probably going to get a better value from Hela. Yeah. And that's just the choice of that. You have to figure out, what's going to happen with Silver Surfer's availability going forward. But if you're a Kraken and you're buying every offer, cough cough, you've got a lot more potential.
Okay, so my testing with Silver Surfer was pretty plain. Is like same thing. I think Hela's better in DD4 than Silver Surfer, but Silver Surfer is just going to be a better long. I think he's the best character in the game easily. Yeah. Like he just is. And so in my runs that I failed, without a doubt, every time I failed a run in DD4, Silver Surfer was the last man standing. I ended up putting him next to Thanos because he can just take the hits. And he just heals up. His passive healing 5% every time anybody takes a turn. He's just healing up, and his stats are there. He's a stat beast, and I think long run, I don't think anybody's gonna not take Silver Surfer to 15 anyways. There's no wasted resources there, and I think you'll get through DD4 one way or another, whether you pick Hela or Silver Surfer. It's just gonna be a lot slower with Silver Surfer. I wish I would have done. If I had the option to take Silver Surfer, I would have done that. Absolutely.
Yeah, again, it really comes down to what level you have them at. Because again, like once he starts getting higher stars, the DD4 is built for him. All those different enemy turns, because of all the nodes loaded with enemies. He's just doing magic, and then he gets that speed buff and transferring debuffs. He is a force of to be reckoned with.
Let's go to city. Okay, let's go to city because we got to go to 2 more nodes. So let's go to city. Philosopher, who did you take into city?
So I took Symbiote Spider-Man, Scream, Punisher, and Merc Lieutenant. And,
Oh boy.
Oh, I know.
Oh,
it was
boy.
bad. But you have to understand, I was only the 3rd person to enter City.
Okay.
And the 2 guys ahead of me hadn't entered Legendary. So I'm like, hey, maybe there's a chance, right? Like that old movie. Hey, maybe there's a chance. So
I'm going to guess that was super painful.
It was. And actually, the guys ahead of me didn't even bring Symbiote Spider-Man. So I thought I was making some huge sacrifice by not going ultra cheap and skipping Symbiote Spider-Man. So it was very painful. Punisher dies in like 1 hit.
Yep.
At least he did for me at that time. I think now with some more Stark tech, he dies in 2 hits. But he does have a passive that's very helpful that people should be aware of, that he buffs city heroes and even the city villains. But yeah, he's bad. I don't really use him anywhere right now. He sits on my bench. But I'm hoping for that skilled military rework.
Yeah, okay. So your regrets are definitely Punisher and Merc Lieutenant is what you're saying.
Yeah, no one should bring either of those characters.
Okay.
You should bring Night Nurse now, but she wasn't reworked when I went through. But I would definitely bring Night Nurse.
And then your fourth, would you do what? Symbiote Spider, Anti-Venom, Scream. Yeah, Anti-Venom.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, you want 3 symbiotes. I did that for the second run. I brought in Anti-Venom, and it's way easier with 3.
Okay, so your preferred if you were to do it again, which would my recommendation is going to mirror this: Anti-Venom, Symbiote Spider-Man, Scream, and Night Nurse.
Correct.
I'm just going to interject. That's my recommendation. Also, what'd you do, Rim?
Yeah, so I actually had the foresight of having watched Yags go through it without Anti-Venom, and so same boat, because it was just going for value and trying to beat the next person through. The idea was it was designed for symbiotes. It is clearly designed for symbiotes. If you haven't watched someone face Emma or that last wave of
it's bonkers.
It's bonkers.
It's bonkers.
So there's definitely some flexibility with after you go Symbiote, Spider-Man, Scream, and Anti-Venom. And by the way, this has been legitimately tested. I do have all my symbiotes at G15. These are the ones that I'm going for, and I'll explain to you on your next run. Like after you do your first run, there's a whole different set of choices, but because of value and what they offer together, there is nothing compared to those 3. Now, I'm going to say Night Nurse, although I do think a dead Punisher offers more value in DD4 than Night Nurse, because she just doesn't survive unless you got like super high red stars on her, and maybe she survives. But definitely Night Nurse is a Doom raid staple. So and she's relatively inexpensive from the skill cost. They're what's she, the exact same as Punisher, and
she's 54 instead of 36, but similar.
Yeah, it's similar because you wind up with
you have extra skill to go. I found that I had extra skill, so it's fine, right?
Yeah, just because there's no real skill legendary. Sorry, Nick Fury. And so that's the problem that you face is there's a lot of good choices to bring up later on, but just not ones that are going to be as essential. Like you can see all the different G14 we have there.
Okay, so this is strange. I think all of us agree on this. So I took in Anti-Venom, Scream, Symbiote Spider-Man, and Punisher, and I would definitely, without a doubt, have swapped out Punisher for Night Nurse. I think we're all identical. I think that's first run. I think that's the best 4 for efficiency. Usefulness outside of DD4, of course, if you can run full symbiotes, go for it. But it's just you're going to run out of bio. It's just not in alien spores. You're just going to run. Okay, so let's go over to legendaries. Philosopher, who did you use for legendary?
So I used Phoenix, Doc Ock, Maw, and Invisible Woman.
Okay, I used the same. What did you do, Rim?
So I used Phoenix, Ebony Maw, Doc Ock, and Jubilee.
Okay, so you went Jubilee instead of Invisible Woman. Okay, so, and I went the same route as Philosopher. I went Phoenix, Doc Ock, Ebony Maw, and Invisible Woman. Let's talk about Jubilee then. How did that go down?
So Jubilee actually was surprisingly good. Being able to blind, I actually put her as a striker specifically for that game mode. Being able to blind consistently was a lot of times clutch. She has a stun and a turn rewind, and she does actually synergize really well with like Doc Ock. Being able to extend a buff on somebody who's about to die and then spread it to the entire team. A little bit more like a little bit more just planning and try harding to get her to work, but I think it was fine.
Okay, so I think most people, as far as mutant goes, people are going to be going Mr. Sinister and Phoenix, right? It's almost like you have to decide who's going to be your third mutant, right? And you chose Jubilee, I chose Emma, Philosopher chose Longshot, right? So talk about that for a minute, Philosopher.
Yeah, I think these are viable choices. I wouldn't criticize you. Jubilee, obviously, she wasn't available when I was going through DD4, but I think it's a roster dependent thing. I will tell you, I have all the gear stored up, and I could bring Jubilee to gear tier 15, and I have not done so. So I have her at gear tier 14, level 80, and I just think her value is landing debuffs. And as long as she stays alive and lands her debuffs, I don't really care as much about maximizing her damage. But if you use Axemen in every game mode, which I don't, then I use them in war. I use Jubilee on one node in the Doom raids, and that's really it. I think that you may want to have her brought up. Right now, currently, I use Invisible Woman in Arena, so I'm happy about it. But I don't think her usefulness in Arena is going to last for very long. I think she'll be eclipsed as more cosmic heroes come into the game. What I've heard is actually that Shuri performs the best in the nodes, and I do use her in all of the raids, in all the Greek raids and Doom raids. So she's a viable choice as well. And obviously Black Bolt has some value too.
Okay, yeah, and I think people are using Shuri with Doom too to give Doom that extra energy to go off turn one, which is kind of fun in Arena.
It's random, and that definitely is a strategy. But I think from the legendary, they're really the only one I probably will say that I've tested would definitely be Black Bolt. I feel like he was just with bio, you're better off taking Invisible Woman as a cosmic hero. Maybe he winds up in the arena defense when we finally figure out what that meta looks like.
Yeah.
But from the perspective of realistically, Phoenix you're not using her in the raids. You just maybe one node, maybe. So ultimately, it comes down to this: is you're going to make a choice down the road whether or not you're going to be using Axemen as your raid team. And if you have made that choice, you probably already see their overall power. They're just wrecking through raids, and they're a phenomenal choice. They're a doom killing team, and that is important to note that they're going to be something that's going to be challenging Doom in the meta in both war and in arena. And so I do think there's some value in Jubilee that's probably outside of the box here. But again, it's going to be a personal choice, roster dependent, and a lot of people may not have the stars or red stars that they might have on some of these other older, more available legendaries, right?
Okay, so I'm going to reinforce the idea that there's a lot of ways of going through Dark Dimension 4 that are good or even correct. It's really going to come down to usefulness outside of DD4 after the fact. But let's start with this sentence right here. Do characters that the three of us have said that were not helpful, that's not it, wish that we hadn't have upgraded, and we are not recommending for anybody else to take up into DD4. You ready for these 5 characters? Because this is what we said in the video so far. Captain America, Black Widow, Mordo, Punisher, and Merc Lieutenant. Not good. Don't take them up to 15 for DD4.
Yeah, I think I think that's right.
Yeah. I think you're, like I said, Mordo is good until you get Surfer, and then Mordo just gets replaced instantly.
Yeah, so take a look at your roster. I think it's also spreading out the pieces, taking a look at your star levels, looking at the Doom Raid and how you're going to want to tackle the Doom Raid is kind of how we're approaching today. And the Doom Raid might change a little bit. How much do you think they're going to change the Doom Raid? I mean, we don't know, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, so that's the one thing that kind of makes it a tricky thing, because I know right now Red Guardian and Night Nurse seem like skill is what's horrible right now, for sure, without a doubt. I mean, I think most of us have a way of getting through all the other nodes pretty easily, with the exception of skill. Skill's tricky, it really is, and that's why we're so sprung on Night Nurse. Okay, anything you guys want to say before we go?
One thing I'll just say is to people is, don't get too caught up on whether or not you are going through the nodes as quickly as possible. I get people worried that they're going to get stuck on a node and like, oh my God, it'll take me forever. As long as you follow and make some reasonable choices here, you're going to be fine, even if your list slightly deviates from ours. So just focus on getting the gear and gearing the characters that you want to have up for your use elsewhere.
Yep. What do you think, Grim?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll just say a couple of quick things. The one thing about DD4 that's nice is it's not negative progress like there was in DD3. Like DD3, you can wind up with like 9 Miss Marvels and 4 Iron Fists of Doom.
DD3's trash, by the way. It's still trash. It's garbage.
Well, that being said, there's still a lot of people that are challenging it. So, try to, if you're starting to think about DD3, try to find the characters that kind of match up with some of our recommendations here, and try to use as many of those as possible, because that's going to save your resources going forward. And then the last piece of the puzzle is, look at your roster. It is a deeply personal difference, and there's one warning here. We're talking about the Doom raid. The U7 raid changed drastically. The units that we were using in there, like Falcon and Scientist Supreme, were outclassed when they brought the raid back and said, here's your raid slider, enjoy. And so that's just, is how long is this first strike going to be? A little bit less communication than we had with the U7 and the Alliance versus Alliance, war, and the big difference. So we just don't know.
Okay. Yeah, so at the end of the day, our regrets for DD4 are Captain America, Black Widow, Mordo, Punisher, and Merc Lieutenant. And for me, Punisher, of course, was my big regret. And that'll do it. All right. Let me know what you think in the comment section. I hope you're making through it. And as always, thanks for watching, and keep on gaming.